Imagine, for just a moment, that every single challenge you face, every fear, every lingering self-doubt, is not simply an obstacle to hurdle, but rather a set of instructions leading you straight to your most authentic calling, filled with untapped power and possibility. Think about it. What if the true key to understanding who you are and what you're meant to do in this world is hidden precisely in the parts of yourself you've been pushing aside, ignoring, or outright denying? Today, we embark on a deep exploration of one of the most transformative notions in psychology and philosophy, namely Carl Jung's theory of the shadow. Yet this isn't merely a conversation about abstract theories or distant concepts. It's a journey inward to discover profound truths that can entirely change your life. And by the end of this adventure, you won't only understand your shadow, you'll also learn how it carries the essential secret to your purpose, your capabilities, and your liberation. The final revelation we're about to uncover is possibly the most powerful, the most life-altering discovery of all. Carl Jung, a foundational figure in depth psychology, asserted that the shadow is the unconscious realm within us, the part we deem unacceptable, the traits, urges, and characteristics we've rejected or cast off. It includes all the qualities, longings, and facets of our personality that we find embarrassing or objectionable. And curiously enough, in these repressed pieces of ourselves lie the seeds of our greatest abilities, as well as a blueprint for a life of genuine fulfillment. Take a moment to wonder how frequently we dodge certain thoughts or impulses because they unsettle us, or how often we come down hard on others for qualities that, if we're being honest, resemble aspects of ourselves. It's quite probable that any exceptionally strong response toward another person is spurred by a part of our own shadow. Jung once noted, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Indeed, the shadow isn't purely about darkness. It's also about possibility. It's about the energy we bury, the life force we conceal, fearing shame or disapproval. Consider your own life. Ask yourself if there are facets of your personality you've kept secret, even from your own awareness. Maybe it's a dread of inadequacy, a smoldering anger, an unrelenting jealousy, or a burning passion you've labeled as impractical or inappropriate. What if these very components of your being weren't glaring faults that need to be wiped out, but instead messages waiting to be acknowledged? Jung believed that by facing our shadow, we can incorporate it into our conscious awareness, leading to what he termed individuation, the process of becoming a fully realized person. This is not child's play. It demands bravery, honesty, and a will to step outside familiar comfort zones. But the gifts are immeasurable. Jung characterized individuation as discovering who you truly are, not just the persona or mask you present to the rest of the world, but also the whole and genuine self, containing both the luminous and the shadow sides. Think about mythic heroes from ancient stories. Each of them, at a certain point, must square off against their own darkness. Hercules from Greek mythology, for instance, battled not only fantastical beasts and gargantuan tasks, but also his own rage and susceptibility. Or Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, who had to wrestle with the darkness within before he could truly become a Jedi. These legends echo our personal psychological journeys, and the question arises, are you willing, right now, to take that first brave step? Are you prepared to confront those segments of yourself you've been outrunning and ask, what lessons do you have for me? According to Jung, the shadow should not be viewed as an enemy, but rather as a wise companion. It makes itself heard in our fears, our dreams, our projections onto others. Have you ever experienced a recurring dream, or felt a strong pull towards a specific theme, person, or creative idea? These might be signals from your shadow attempting to communicate. Beginning the work of integrating your shadow starts with recognition. So pay attention to strong emotions, and gut reactions, especially when they seem out of proportion to the situation at hand. These often act as markers for the parts of yourself that you've repressed. And once you pinpoint these features, the next step is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean indulging in every forbidden fantasy, nor does it mean letting these impulses rule over you. It simply involves admitting that these qualities exist, doing so without shaming yourself, and grasping how they might be guiding you. Now, envision the sense of release you might feel if you no longer had to be frightened by your so-called flaws, but could, instead, see them as opportunities for growth. Think of how much more genuine and self-assured you could become if you let go of the fear and brought these deeper truths into the light. We'll continue to examine the precise ways in which you can acknowledge and merge with your shadow. In so doing, we'll reveal practical methods to transform what seems like pure darkness into an illuminating force, and we'll explore how this very integration can be the key not only to your greatest breakthroughs, but also to your life's calling. So please stay with us, because the most striking revelation is yet to be revealed. And by the conclusion of this passage, you'll have a fresh map for discovering and embracing your destiny. Let us proceed together into the hidden inner world where extraordinary promise lies waiting to be awakened. Let's deepen our journey into the enigmas of the shadow, examining just how your understanding of this cloaked dimension of self can unlock not only your life's purpose, but also a profound, abiding peace. The shadow has innumerable ways of surfacing. In your routines, your closest relationships, and perhaps most tellingly, in your most charged emotional reactions. Have you ever exploded in anger or found yourself disproportionately upset, then asked, "Why did I react so intensely?" In many of these moments, it's our own shadow stepping forward, because, as Jung observed, the more rigidly we push away a facet of ourselves, the more controlling and overpowering it becomes. It's very much like pressing a beach ball beneath the surface of a swimming pool. The harder you force it down, the more forcefully it will pop up once you release it. So imagine how your life might change if you let that beach ball float up, carefully examined it, and understood exactly why it existed in the first place. That kind of conscious inquiry replaces anxious suppression with liberating insight. One prominent manifestation of the shadow, according to Jung, is known as projection. When we renounce certain parts of ourselves, we often observe those elements amplified in other people, intensifying our reactions to them. For instance, if you feel ongoing worries that you're inadequate in some way, you might attack or belittle individuals who display great confidence, or you may brush off those who excel in areas where you fear you fall short. This is not merely a psychological curiosity, it is a very real mirror. The outside world reflecting back a piece of your own unconscious self. As Jung so succinctly stated, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. So think about an individual who repeatedly aggravates or unsettles you, maybe a coworker, a neighbor, even a person in your family. Rather than fixating on their behavior, ask yourself what your emotional reaction might be exposing about you. In other words, which segment of your shadow are you seeing in them? Keep in mind that this is not about fault-finding or self-condemnation, but rather self-inquiry. Each projection that rattles you is actually an opening that beckons you to retrieve a missing piece of yourself, shining a light on a hidden truth. Let's extend this investigation to the question of life purpose. The parts of us we've stowed away are often closely linked with our unique talents, our deepest drives, and the very pursuits that could shape our life's mission. For instance, an individual who has suppressed their creativity for years out of trepidation or a sense that it's impractical might find that in embracing that hidden side, they unlock their calling. Jung maintained that purpose isn't something outside of us, waiting to be stumbled upon. It's something that emerges from inside. It's the product of aligning fully with your genuine self. Shadow included, in Jung's words, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. How do we align ourselves in such a way? It starts with personal reflection. Consider posing direct questions to yourself. What am I most afraid to see in myself? What traits was I taught were unacceptable in me? Which aspirations or dreams did I abandon for fear they were unrealistic? Write these down. Ponder them deeply. You may be amazed by the insights that surface once you truly allow your shadow room to speak. Journaling can be highly potent for this. Jung was a keen diarist, meticulously recording his dreams and reflections because he believed dreams to be the most straightforward line of communication with the unconscious. In dreams, the shadow might appear as a menacing figure, a wild animal, or a disquieting sequence of events. So notice recurring symbols or recurring emotional tones. Ask, what is my unconscious trying to show me? Now, imagine how transformative it can be to fuse the shadow into your conscious identity. Consider an artist who declines to use darker shades on their canvas. While their work may be lovely, it'll lack emotional depth and the interplay of contrast. Similarly, integrating the shadow means harnessing your full palette of human qualities, light and dark alike, to create a truly substantial life. Integration is not granting free rein to every rash impulse, nor is it about letting destructive urges run wild. It is understanding and accepting all these impulses, recognizing they're integral pieces of your humanity. Acknowledging them fosters empathy, not solely for you but for others around you, as you grasp that every person, in their own way, is contending with a shadow. This common thread of shared human complexity allows for deeper bonds and compassion. This long journey of shadow work isn't something you do once and then forget. It's a continuous cycle, requiring commitment, honesty, and readiness to keep evolving. And yet, the advantages are monumental. You gain an unshakable sense of your path in life, a tranquil but strong sense of self, and the authenticity to live in harmony with your innermost identity. There's another essential piece to remember. Your purpose reaches beyond you. Jung believed that our individualized growth affects the collective unconscious, the shared pool of humanity's experiences. Once you dare to confront your own inner darkness and reclaim your shadow, you not only change yourself, you also uplift everyone you encounter. You contribute to the broader unfolding of humanity's potential. In the chapters ahead, we'll delve into tangible steps for blending the shadow with your daily existence. We'll look at how acknowledging your darkness can create more rewarding relationships, supercharge creativity, and lead to a life that truly resonates with your deepest self. Do keep reading, for the most stirring truth has not yet been fully unveiled. Stay close as we venture even further, illuminating the path to your highest, most aligned future. Moving on to put these Jungian concepts into practice, let's focus on applying the insights of shadow work in the rhythms of daily life. It's one thing to grasp the fundamentals intellectually, but to truly shift your reality, you must translate that awareness into deliberate action. This step, where you integrate new understanding into lived experience, makes all the difference, bridging that gap between theory and complete transformation. First and foremost, radical honesty with yourself is key. This means taking off the rose-colored glasses when it comes to your own behaviors, thoughts, and feelings. It can feel daunting to confess, "Yes, I do feel envious," or "Yes, I've been judging others because I see something in them that I don't want to confront in myself." But crucially, we're not condemning ourselves here. We're simply noticing. Think of it like tidying up a cluttered attic. If you refuse to see the dust and disorder, you can never reorganize it and make use of what's been stashed away. Similarly, if you won't acknowledge your deeper truths, you'll never be able to embrace or learn from them. A practical approach is to monitor your emotional triggers. The next time you feel a surge of anger, jealousy, impatience, or anxiety, pause and question, why am I experiencing such an intense reaction? What is this situation or person revealing about my shadow? For instance, if someone's extreme confidence sets you off, ask whether deep inside you fear that same confidence in yourself, or if it highlights a longing you've suppressed. It's easy to slip into blaming or criticizing when confronted with these feelings. But remember that these triggers are valuable. They're signposts indicating which facets of your being need exploration, not condemnation. Once certain elements of your shadow come into focus, consider having an internal dialogue with them. Jung often recommended his clients treat the shadow as a separate presence. It might sound a bit odd, but it's incredibly useful for making the unconscious conscious. Imagine pulling up a chair, inviting that neglected or disowned part of you to sit down, and asking gently, "What's behind your anger? Why do you feel so ignored? What are you protecting me from?" You can do this in writing, through deep meditation, or guided visualization. The objective is to create a safe atmosphere where these unrecognized aspects can speak without fear of being rejected again. Don't lose sight of the fact that your shadow is part of you, but it's not your adversary. It's a piece that tried, in its own clumsy or desperate way, to protect or guide you. As you engage in this new conversation, you might see that your rage traces back to some old wound, or your jealousy is really a driving force pushing you toward your own ambitions. Shining a light on these hidden motivations can be surprisingly liberating. Now, let's shift to how shadow work shapes our relationships. The interactions we have with others can't help but be colored by the parts of ourselves we disown. What we bury often emerges in conflicts, misunderstandings, or recurring patterns in our love life, friendships, and even at work. Perhaps you've noticed that the same arguments keep repeating, or you continually attract a certain type of partner. Jung believed that every relationship forms a mirror that reflects our hidden parts. So the next time you find yourself in a heated dispute or dealing with unresolved tension, consider if there's an aspect of your own shadow being projected onto the other person. Recognizing these dynamics won't just help you heal internally, it can diffuse conflict, foster empathy, and pave the way for relationships grounded in authenticity and genuine connection. It's a powerful shift to move from "they're the problem" to "what is this person teaching me about myself?" Such a perspective invites profound compassion for both yourself and the other individual, because you see that they, too, are grappling with their own shadow. Turning now to creativity and life purpose, Jung suggested that the shadow holds significant reserves of unchanneled energy. Energy we spend hiding or suppressing something about ourselves can become freed up for inspired endeavors. Once we bring that darkness into the open, it's not uncommon for repressed anger to become a fierce passion for activism, or for a hidden craving for admiration to blossom into a creative display of artistry or public speaking. As you draw your repressed aspects into consciousness, you salvage that energy, directing it into pursuits that speak to the essence of who you are. Countless artists, writers, and leaders have delved into their own shadows, letting their pain, flaws, and darkest corners fuel their expressions. Frida Kahlo's searingly honest self-portraits, grounded in personal anguish, are a testament to this. Martin Luther King Jr. harnessed indignation toward social injustice and turned it into a galvanizing force for sweeping societal change. Jung saw creativity as a tool for individuation, a path for integrating all levels of the psyche, conscious and unconscious. Think about your own passions, goals, or projects that once fired your imagination, and ask yourself if the fear of criticism or the pang of vulnerability ever caused you to set them aside. If so, these neglected pursuits might be reawakened as you delve into your shadow. Part of that suppressed energy can be transferred into your best, boldest work, fulfilling not only your needs, but also offering a gift to the world. As you progress, you'll sense a significant turning point. Suddenly, qualities that once felt shameful or even dangerous can be claimed as wells of power and wisdom. You'll grow more authentic, self-assured, and aligned with an internal sense of purpose. In the upcoming final section, we'll divulge the ultimate truth about the shadow, revealing how incorporating it fully can produce extraordinary metamorphoses, not just within you, but in the environment and community around you as well. Prepare yourself, because we're on the verge of illuminating the single most potent insight that will connect all the dots, shedding light on the path to your highest, most purposeful life. As we draw closer to the core of Jung's teachings on the shadow, let's reflect on the magnitude of all that's been shared. The hidden side of ourselves, so often shunned or feared, is not an unfortunate burden, but rather an unopened gift. It holds the code to our genuine identity, our creative reservoir, and the foundation of our life mission. Truly embracing the shadow then raises an essential question. How does integrating these aspects so dramatically change us and, by extension, alter our interaction with the world? Jung emphasized a profound point. We can't reach wholeness by amputating or exiling the pieces of ourselves we don't like. Wholeness comes from unity, from bringing light and dark, conscious and unconscious into harmony, he famously stated. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That, at its essence, is shadow work, shining awareness on the dark corners of our psyche. But how, in everyday terms, do we bring that darkness to the forefront? One might answer with a single word: vulnerability. When we share our fears, our insecurities, and our so-called flaws, we liberate ourselves from their control. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the purest kind of strength. It says, "Here I am, warts and all, and I trust that I'm still worthy." Notice how often in relationships, at work, or even in friendships, we wear masks to ensure that the messy parts of us stay hidden. But that habit of concealing blocks the route to real connection. By integrating your shadow, you allow yourself to appear in front of others fully, to be seen and loved for your entire being. And that authenticity resonates deeply, drawing people closer, cultivating genuine trust. Furthermore, it's not just about forging stronger bonds. It's about your ripple effect on the wider world. Once you accept your own entirety, shadow included, you're no longer battling an inner civil war. This brand of self-acceptance flows into how you tackle life's bigger questions, challenges, and ambitions. You begin to operate from a place of inner unity rather than fragmentation. Let's pivot once more to purpose. Many of us spend our days hunting for meaning, as though it's some external treasure. But as Jung would urge, purpose arises from within. It's a byproduct of living in tune with your authentic being, inclusive of the parts that you once banished. Think of it this way. Your life calling is not just the tasks you do, but the person you are as you do them. It's the confluence of your unique set of strengths, passions, hardships, and even personal contradictions. The shadow is an indispensable piece of this puzzle, not a hindrance, but a map, for instance. Someone paralyzed by feelings of unworthiness may find a calling in guiding others to discover their sense of self-worth, or a person weighed down by anger might channel that intensity towards championing fairness and justice. The injuries we carry can ultimately become the deepest wellsprings of our wisdom. Now, here lies the crowning insight. When you integrate your shadow, you don't merely reshape your personal existence, you contribute to the betterment of society at large. Your newfound empathy, your expanded perspective, your refusal to pass your own darkness on to others through blame or denial. These are transformative forces. Imagine a world in which more people, rather than displacing their hidden fears and insecurities, faced them head-on, recognized the universal human capacity for both good and ill, and committed themselves to growth, empathy, and self-awareness. In such a collective environment, hostility and animosity would dwindle, understanding would expand, and we'd collectively move closer to a higher level of consciousness. That is the true might of shadow work. Far beyond just a journey of self-improvement, it is an essential contribution to the entire human story. As we draw to a close, I challenge you. Dare to examine the deepest parts of yourself with open eyes. Ask, what messages does my shadow contain, and how can it guide me toward a more meaningful, fully lived life? This is not the final step, but the opening of a new chapter, a path that leads you toward becoming a more integrated, vivid, and purposeful version of yourself. Feel free to share your reflections, insights, and questions, because your exploration might encourage someone else to confront their own shadows. Remember, this adventure is ongoing, each day inviting you to peel back another layer of denial and uncover the shining truth underneath. By recognizing the worth in every facet of your being, you awaken possibilities for a life that is courageous, creative, and whole. Thank you for walking with me through this remarkable exploration. I hope you find the resilience, the insight, and the serenity that naturally emerge when you venture to integrate your shadow. May the coming days be filled with new awareness, gentle acceptance, and a powerful drive to live out the reality of who you truly are.